To talk about structural soils today. What do we mean by that? Well, let's turn into it here. I mean, it's a problem growing trees in the urban environment. We tend to have shallow soils, poor soil. We get trees that get blown over pretty easily. Recently in Utah, we had a big wind storm that came through and just knocked over a ton of trees. We didn't lose so many trees outside of the cities. We lost a lot inside of the cities because of this very thing. You can see here on the left, this tree got knocked over, hardly any roots, down below about a foot. Here's another problem. Look at these trees. They were planted at the same time. And the trees over on the left are doing much, much better than the trees on the right. These trees on the right, they just don't have much soil. So they're struggling. They're not getting enough water. They're not getting enough nutrients. They don't have enough root growth. And so it's a problem. Here's a lawsuit just ready to happen. I mean, we see this all over the place, right? We see sidewalks getting destroyed by tree roots. These are powerful. They are massive things that grow and they expand and they knock things over. And again, this is just a lawsuit ready to happen. So not smart. We see this kind of thing all the time. These roots are trying to grow underneath the sidewalks, and that's what they're pushing up on. So we have this thing called the Cornell University, CU, which is not coefficient of uniformity like we talk about with distribution uniformity, but it's CU, in this case, stands for Cornell University out of New York. It's a structural soil. It's a patent. There's the patent number. It's a two-part system. It's made out of rigid lattice stone to meet engineering requirements for a load-bearing soil. So we can put down sidewalks and driveways and roads even. Parking lots, and we can have it, still works, and yet we can have some room for growth underneath it with the soil to let water, nutrients, air all do their thing. So here's a diagram of it. You can see we've got this Cornell soil here. We've got a prepared subgrade. We've got a poured in place concrete on both sides of the tree, but underneath, the roots are able to grow and kind of do their thing. Here's another version of it. We've got a bare root tree in a typical parking lot island. We've got some drainage here also that we're using to move water away from this. But we get the root ball, which is kind of the normal soil that we get from a root ball that we plant things into normally. And then, but over here, we've got this Cornell soil that those roots can grow into out of the root ball. Here's another version of it. Again, we've got a situation where we'd like to have more root growth. And so they've got this pavement over here on the right, and we've got the Cornell soil underneath it. We've got a pipe that's allowing roots to grow through this concrete planter wall. And those roots are moving through and getting down into that Cornell mix. It's nice if the pavement's a porous pavement. It doesn't have to be though. As long as it's got some way of getting water in there, it's nice to get a little bit of water underneath so that those roots have got something to grow to. So, these porous asphalt, structural soils, porous asphalt, we get less runoff. We get recharge of the groundwater. We also have porous concrete. Those things are nice partners if we can do it with structural soils. We get compacted soil. We needed this particular thing. It's needed near parking lots, and I'm trying to grow trees in parking lots, for example. I'm trying to grow trees next to sidewalks and roads. This is where this really is helpful. So the formula is 80% stone. It's got to be spec. It's got to be 3/4 inch to 1.5 inch angular crushed rock, not round stones, angular. It's got to do that so that it bridges. About 20% soil. We want that soil to have at least 20% clay and 2 to 5% organic matter in it. We also add a hydrogel material as a tackifier. We use this Sci-Scapes is what's called for in the Cornell patent, but there's other versions out there that people use too. We add about 10% water when we're mixing the thing up to kind of hold the whole thing together. We want to build these things to 24 to 36 inch depth. In terms of volume, how much of the soil do I need? It's 2 cubic feet of soil for every square foot of mature tree crown projection. In other words, the area underneath the drip line. So we need to calculate what that mature tree is going to look like, and then make sure we have enough square footage or cubic footage of the Cornell mix. So here's kind of a diagram of it. Again, we get this loading or compaction thing. Here's the thing, is if you build this right, it doesn't compact. These stones, they bridge, and so we can drive on them without them going anywhere on us. It just is, it doesn't go anywhere. So in between though, we've got some space, we've got some soil that allows tree roots to grow. So that's what kind of have our cake and eat it too. We like to say that phrase. Now it's also important to pick the right kind of trees. There's lots of studies that have been done on street trees, and some are just not, they don't work well in the city for a variety of reasons. Mostly it's related to soil. Everybody thinks, oh, it's pollution. Well, that's part of it. Part of it is you're dealing with exhaust, but trees are pretty resilient to that typically. Most of the time it's a soil problem. I just don't have enough soil, I don't have enough water, I don't have enough nutrients. And so, some of these trees are more tolerant of that than others. Okay, now we're going to look at, this is the, I just showed you a few of the things, but I just wanted to go to this document that's online. You can just Google it. See Cornell structural soil. Here's the document that is owned by Cornell University that some of these things that I took in this presentation, I took from here. If we just kind of go through a couple of things, this again makes the case for it. You recognize those pictures, those are the ones I stole from here. Here's again the kind of a picture of the mixing. We typically are using big front end loaders to do the mixing on this stuff, mix it on site usually. We get, again, some problems that get solved when we do these kinds of things. Here's another diagram. Here's an island in a parking lot with a Cornell structural soil that's not underneath it. Again, underneath it is just regular soil, but it's out underneath the parking lot is where that structural soil is located to give us enough cubic footage of soil for that plant to grow. I mean, if you only are depending on the soil right underneath that structure, you don't have enough. Here's kind of an overview of another one of these that just shows those roots kind of escaping through the pipes. Again, that's a way to get through curbs and planters and et cetera, is to put piping so that those roots have an escape route. Let's see. Here's one thing that's helpful in this is some frequently asked questions that would be good to look at. Again, here's how to calculate the crown projection. You can measure the radius of the tree and do the whole pi r squared. That tells me how many square foot of crown projection I have. And then again, I need 2 cubic feet for every square foot of crown projection. So there's my calculation for that. Again, the depth is 2 to 3 feet. 3 feet is really preferred. Some other questions here that are good. One of the things we get asked a lot is, isn't the soil going to migrate down through the structural soil? No, it's really not going to do that. For one thing, you don't typically have a lot of water moving through these things underneath concrete and asphalt. And so it's not, and shaking is not going to really do it either. It tends to stick there. The hydrogel does break down a little bit over time, but that's really kind of a thing just to sort of hold it together during construction. So I'm not really, frankly, too worried about that. So here's a really good one though. What happens when roots expand in this structural soil? There's going to come a time, as it says here, the roots will displace the stone. But if the roots are, as we have observed, deep down in the profile, the pressure they generate during expansion would spread over a larger surface area. So they say we've seen roots around the stone actually surround some of the stones in older installations rather than displacing the stones. So we tend not to get that heaving in sidewalks and in parking lots that we normally see. And that's kind of this stuff has been put in a lot of places to get it to work. Is it susceptible to frost heave? Not really. I mean, this thing was developed in Ithaca, New York, where you get a lot of freezing and thawing over the course of a season. Can you add a normal amount of soil in a tree pit under the pavement? So they prefer to use the structural soil under the tree ball to prevent the root ball from sinking. Planting trees directly into it provides a firmer base for unit pavers close to the root ball than does conventional soil. If the tree pit is sufficiently large, greater than 5 by 5, a conventional soil could be used in the open tree pit surrounding the root ball, with the structural soil extending under the pavement. So that's good information too. One thing that they don't really talk about in here very well is forming layers and sharp interfaces. One of the things that I've found is that it's important not to have sharp barriers. So you kind of want to mix it a little bit. So if I've got a structural soil and I've got my potting mix or my regular soil sitting on top of it, it's good to just kind of mix it up a little bit, even if it's just with a shovel, just so you don't get that really strict barrier. You want to have a little bit of mixing that happens. So I think that's an important comment to realize. Let's jump down here to can you put this under existing trees? Several instances where this has been done adjacent to existing trees. It appears that if a few tree roots are damaged, the tree is going to be okay. I mean, obviously you're damaging the tree if you're doing that, but if you don't do too much damage to the root system, you can probably be okay, especially if the tree's already struggling as it is, you know, but you might knock off a tree or two. So, okay. It's important this is a patent. You do have to, you know, pay these guys to use this. It's part of the downside of this, but it is a really great option for urban cities. Very interesting stuff.